housing market is a very, very local one. It really depends on where you live, what you're looking for, whether you're buying or selling. There's just so many dynamics. But one thing that's pretty consistent across the board is that you will be working with a realtor. And this is a service provider that can really make or break the experience for you, and not something that we spend a lot of time thinking about. Who's the person, what do we need from them? So we're going to focus on that in this conversation today. Our guest is Anne Alkok. She is the broker of record at Wahi, which is a real estate platform. And Anne, thank you for joining us. Welcome.
My pleasure. Thank you for having us.
The house seller generally pays the commission. It gets split between the two realtors on each side of the transaction. If we say the average house costs 700 grand and the average commission, say 5%, this is 35 grand. This is a very expensive service that people are paying for. And yet they don't spend a lot of time interviewing that broker or realtor or vetting that broker or realtor. You've been in this business for a while. Does that surprise you?
It does in many ways. People will often use a relative or somebody that somebody has recommended without actually looking at what that realtor's experience is and what they are able to bring to the table.
In today's day and age, volumes have dropped dramatically. Like people are just not selling houses, buying and selling houses with the frequency that they did a couple of years ago. That means there are a lot of realtors out there who are having a hard time getting work. What would you say as context in terms of and I'm not asking you to have specific numbers here, but the percentage of realtors for whom this is their full-time job. They are working at this 40 or 50 hours a week. And those who are part-time, they maybe sell a house a year, maybe they don't even sell a house every year.
That's actually a really good question. It's interesting. I was looking at that this morning, and in the Toronto real estate area, there's probably around 70,000 realtors who are licensed.
Wow.
If you include Ottawa and London and just that general area, the number reaches up to 90,000. So I looked at how many people actually sold at least one house a month. So 12 homes last year. You'd be surprised. It's somewhere in the range of about 6,500 agents. Now
So
there's a
basically
lot,
one in 10.
basically.
Wow. And if we apply that to other service areas, my level of comfort for a physician who is only working 1 month in 10, I mean, it's not an apples to apples, but, or a lawyer who's working 1 month in 10, or even a hairstylist who's working 1 month in 10, I would be more concerned about their ability to do extraordinary work if they just weren't in the game with sufficient frequency.
That totally makes sense because the market can change on a dime.
Mm.
And if you are actively involved, if you're actively out looking at homes, watching what's selling, working with realtors, you sense the change that's coming
Mm.
almost before it's evident in the stats.
Now, the ideal realtor for an individual or a couple who is on either side of the equation is very personal. Some really, really put a high value on the relationship dynamic. Some people put a really high value on their perception of how strategic that realtor is. And are they going to get me the most amount of money or get me the best price for the house? Like the fight, the drive. What are some things that the individual should consider before they select the person who is going to work with them in this area?
I think both of those areas that you've mentioned are important because this is a very stressful interaction. You
Mm.
know, you're doing a lot of work cleaning the house or you're investing a lot of money. Like, really, really important to know that the person you're working with listens, that you have a good rapport, that they communicate, that they keep you in the loop. So the confidence in that relationship is important, but also understanding their experience in the area, how what their statistics look like. You know, what's
Mm.
their list to sell ratio? Are they somebody who invests a lot in terms of helping you prepare the home for sale so that it markets at its very best? Those are all different factors, but I think experience, their knowledge of the area, whether you're a buyer or a seller, both of those individuals would need to look at the realtor's experience.
Give me the phrasing for this question that would get at the point you're making around results. Full time, part time. Are you effective in list to sell? What does the question or questions sound like? I can imagine that a client like me would be a little uncomfortable to ask something like that. It almost seems rude.
I understand, especially for Canadians, we're very
Yeah.
proper.
I would be sure to
But I would
apologize
say,
before I ask the question.
but I do think that you could ask, so how familiar are you with the area? What is your list to sell ratio? How do you price? What happens if the pricing strategy isn't working? What will you do next? Those kinds of questions will help you get at how well thought out this person's approach is to the business, as well as, understanding that it isn't just fluff that they're giving you.
Mm. In relationships, intimate relationships, there's a very clear like dating phase, and then there's like a put a ring on it. So there's, something that looks like commitment. When it comes to the relationship with a realtor, how do you do the dating part, the like chemistry check? And then at what point do you put the ring on it? Like when you're signing something that says, I am going to work with you exclusively. How does all that work?
I think with a buyer's agent, you would hope to meet with them, understand their process. Perhaps you'll meet at a coffee shop or their office. You might go to see a few homes with them. They'll explain the process, and then at some point, you would agree to work together. For a seller, I think typically you would want to interview a few agents, see what they're recommending that they would do in order to get your home sold, what their services are, what their fees are. Take some time to think about it, and then you could re-interview.
Mm. I am someone who needs a little bit of emotional management from a service provider in general, but from a realtor in particular. And I've worked with a bunch of them over the course of time. How do you screen for that? Like, what's going to tell me that they're going to be able to manage me as an individual? I'm a delight, by the way, but there's parts of this that get stressful.
Absolutely. And I understand that. I don't know the exact answer to that question, actually. So I went through a process a couple of years ago when we were selling our family home. And what I did was I used a realtor that I had previously worked with. So I had the advantage of having seen how she negotiated for a seller when I represented a buyer. And she was very good relationally. And I think that helped bring the offer forward. But I also knew that she knew the area, that she did a great job with her listings. So those are some of those things that you can see as well, by just looking at how people present properties on MLS. It
Mm.
doesn't get to the personal part, but it does help you understand how they present a home.
How important is it that the realtor that I work with to either buy or sell a home is respected in the community of realtors? How does that play into it? If someone's known to be a jerk, does that limit the number of people who are going to come and see my listing, or is it irrelevant?
Well, I think it comes into play when you're actually doing the negotiation. I don't think it will affect exposure in the market because buyers will want to see the home and realtors are ensuring that the client gets out to see everything so that they're educated and have access to the homes that they're interested in. So I don't think it will affect exposure, but it may affect the negotiation and provide little bumps along the road.
Back in the day, the realtor was a gatekeeper. They would know about the listings beforehand. They would send you things based on what you said you were interested in. In today's day and age, it is all online. You go to the apps. I mean, very rarely there'd be something that would be not on the MLS platform. How would you define the real value add for a realtor, given that the research part It's less critical, certainly on comps, on pricing for sure. But the like what's available, it's available for all of us to see. We can go on House Sigma and find all the pricing. So what would you say is the big value add?
I think so. The data is there, but understanding how to interpret and apply the data to decisions like pricing, I think a realtor really comes into play there because they will understand things like what a buyer is looking for. So, two homes can be listed at the same price, but one will have more current finishes and be more appealing to buyers, right? It's
Mhm.
more likely to sell than the one that's dated. There are factors in terms of what buyers look at that are not reflected in the data. Layout, condition of the home, all of those kinds of
Mm.
things are not in the data. So a realtor will help with pricing, and both over and under pricing means you're losing money.
Just before we go, one last question. I want to weave in technology to our conversation. I've been
Mhm.
surprised that the sector has not been really disrupted in the way so many sectors have. It still is largely human to human. There's technology out there, but in Canada, we still use realtors on both sides of the transaction for the most part. When
Mhm.
you look ahead into your very accurate and very insightful crystal ball, what are some of the themes that you're watching as it relates to technology?
That's a really good question. There is a very real desire to disrupt and to provide technology and to have all of that really, really uh, take care of a lot of the business. But there is something, as you mentioned, like it's a huge emotional decision. And I don't actually see that realtors will be disrupted by technology in the same way as, for example, travel agents were.
Mm,
There was value that travel agents brought, but it wasn't that same kind of investment and that same kind of, you know, wrenching decision. Is this the right house? Can I get
yeah,
it? Or I'm trying to sell and what's the best possible price I can get? Those aren't things that really affect in terms of travel. You may have a bad trip, but
yeah,
it's not the same as selling or buying a home because that's very personal.
yeah. Really insightful stuff, Anne. Thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having us.
Anne Alkok is the broker of record at Wahi, a real estate platform, and she was here to talk about the realtor relationship and some of the things to think about before you make the big decision to bring one on side, whether you're buying or selling your home.